I know there are a lot of things about this book that I loved, and a lot of things that kind of hit in a very personal way because of some things that were going on with the team this month. New clients, knew this, knew that, knew everything. And there are so many different books about process, but I think this was one of the better ones. But let's just start with maybe first impressions, go around the room, and what did you think to start with?
It was a well-written book. It had a nice logical kind of flow. It had lots of examples or kind of story situation type of things where, process would be applied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I love the fact that it's part of a bigger system, the EOS, what do you call it? Religion? Enterprise operating system. There's a lot of words for that, and there's a lot of different systems that are kind of different flavors of the same thing. PMI has one. I used to work for Franklin Covey. They had their own, the Covey system. The EOS, I think, is a good way of doing that. There's a lot of different ones like that. But John, what did you think? What was your first impression?
Well, process is always good. The problem with process is that you have to be on your toes until you know it works. So you create a process, or somebody creates one, and as you go through it, you need to make sure that it's actually functioning as not only designed, but desired.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that they emphasize that enough.
I do have to say, my personality is kind of averse to process. And, everybody on the team, I'm sure this comes as a huge surprise, that chaos is my best friend. And, I really like to move fast and take advantage of opportunities that pop up and do unexpected things. And, if there's something that happens with a client or a situation or anything, I love to be able to respond, drop everything and respond immediately. So, in fact, John and I were just getting rid of some old papers, and I found this letter that I wrote to one of my old bosses that said, I never agreed to sit in a cubicle from 9 to 5. Because we were having some conflicts and things like that. And, that was not the deal when I got hired. And then it became the deal later when the company got bought by somebody else and there was a change in culture. So, there's a difference, I think, between the expectation and the reality of process. So I have personally a little bit of resistance to tying myself down to processes too much. And that works great when you're a solopreneur or when it's your own company and you can do whatever you want, but it is quite a different thing when you get other people involved and you're doing stuff that they don't expect, or, you're just expecting people to keep up, when you're like moving fast and breaking things. And, that's not really fair to your team and it's not really productive. So this was timely for me.
Let me interject something completely off topic for a moment.
Okay.
Last time we were together, we had an issue here, the internet, as it turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have a firewall. It rebooted in the middle of our meeting, and the reason it did was because it encountered a nasty piece of code trying to come in and try to take care of it, and it lacked an update that I hadn't put on it because I like to do that on weekends. And so it rebooted, and then we got around it, and I put it on. It took me 3 hours with the help of the company that provides the thing, but we got it updated. So we should be good now. I'm sure glad we had it because it prevented some nasty stuff.
Does that have to do with process, or is that
No, I just thought about it. I'm over here looking at the internet again.
now you're
No, I
monitoring
probably should tell these people what I'm doing, but I've got an interface into the firewall, particularly during meetings and so forth throughout the day. I like to keep track to make sure it's working.
So that's your process, is to
Yes.
monitor that during
Kind
meetings.
of process, right? How does John protect everything and keep it updated and all that kind of good stuff? And unfortunately, this time, it was before the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Cool. So I guess, there's one thing happened this month that, made this really hit home. And that is that we started working with a client that didn't fit in our processes. And it caused all kinds of frustration for us and for, everybody working on that project, which was fine. We did, actually, Ali did a great job of managing through that. But, it was one of those things where it's just like, you know what? I'm too busy with these other things. You're going to have to deal with the chaos and move forward. And if there is not a process for this, you're going to either have to make one up or just do your best you can. And he did a great job with that. But I just wanted to, since Ali happens to be here and we happen to be talking about process, I don't know if you wanted to share any thoughts about that.
Basically, my experience with the processes is a bit different. I used to work with the similar processes like EOS. I used to work with Oracle. I used to work with SAP. I used to work with Maximo. Processes are easy to develop, but it's hard to implement in my point of view.
Yeah.
And what our client is doing is they are in the phase of implementation phase, which is very difficult. I used to work with the Baiko Petroleum, where I was a power user and end user for that system. And on that time, I become frustrated at because I didn't know what is SAP and how gonna it's to be operated within the each department. Just like right now, we are facing that our client is implementing the EOS across the organization, not in the one department. So they have to train overall the organization, just like 4,000 employees, 3,000 employees. So they have to take all the burdens on their own shoulder. But the behind the scenes people who are used to work in the daily life, they have followed these process or this system. They used to know, or they might know that what is the actual EOS and what is SAP, and how gonna I can easily accept that change in my, you can say, regular life. That is a very difficult question. And how we can implement in overall organization. So they used to train each department by power user or end user. Someone have the more authority, someone has the lower authority, someone is only drafting some orders or giving some orders, but there is a system. But my experience is it's really difficult to develop the process and implement as well in overall the profitability of the organization. So
Yeah.
we used to do same thing. You asked me to, okay, start working on what you have in your mind, but don't come to me because we know that this is not a good fit for us, but we have to do something in order to survive or sustain the everything. And I was not getting that idea that how should I proceed, because I have nothing in my mind that which way I have to follow the any task or any particular thing.
Yeah.
But things started working, and overall I think so it's a good learning. It's good we always open to new ideas and new experiment. We did sales, good sales as well. We are not getting any issue from the client side. They are much happier from us, no any complaints so far. But the what processes we are talking about is that now we are in a phase of that how we have this project and what process we should follow in order to sustain our business model. It's not about only doing your business, but you need to sustain that as well. Because in the near future, we might have some another similar project, maybe some different project, but we right now we have some experience from this project to move forward in the right direction.
Right. That's true. And, the interesting thing is this is marketing because we are selling the process internally to people who have been doing it a different way. We need them to change their behavior. So it's not the usual marketing that we do, but it is marketing in a sense. And, I guess process is a means and also an end from a marketing perspective because we use a million processes in our business. We use the holiday post process. We send out templates for things. We build. We have processes for content batches. We have processes for working together on different types of projects. We've got all kinds of templates and things like that. So we have processes to do marketing, but also process is something that needs to be marketed. We have to sell our onboarding process when a new client comes on board because they may not be used to that. They don't see that as a value until they see, that's a key part of the value we bring. So, we sell processes and we use processes to sell. So we use both ends of the stick here.
One of our ABCI-based processes, the research one, from research to delivery of content page or anything, and that process help us every team member get easily involved in the project and understand what we have to do next in line. After research, we have to do the proposal, we have to put our ideas into directions, and so on. And there will be final fact check and review. That one is really your storytelling and real marketing. What I'm seeing that is nobody is offering currently in aviation marketing.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Absolutely right. Good point.
I worked for a company once that marketed what we did as processes. And the client I was working at had some issues where their computer died. And they came to me about 7 o'clock one evening and said, "Can you put together a project plan so we can replace the computer?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "When can you have it done?" I said, "Oh, we'll start on it tomorrow morning about 8 o'clock." He said, "No, how about if you start now?" I said, "Oh." Um, I looked at my watch and I said, "If I can have some help," I said, "I can probably get it done by midnight." So he said, "You have anybody you want?" So I went to one of the vice presidents and told him what I was up to. And I said, "I know I need you. Who else do you suggest that I use?" And he named out 5 or 6 more people. I said, "Okay." And we got together in a room and I told them what I wanted and I was going to leave the room, give them 5 minutes. And I came back and they had all this stuff. We put a project plan together. I mean, by midnight. And I said, he said, "Well, when can you start?" I said, "How about tomorrow morning?" He said, "How about now?" I said,
At
"Okay."
midnight. That's right.
They gave me 145 people and the keys to the company, basically. And we started, and we had a granularity on that project of 2 hours. And in 96 hours, we had just taken this. I mean, what happened? The roof fell in on the data center for who knows why, but it did. And so we had to not only rebuild the data center, we had to get rid of all the disk drives because they were contaminated, get rid of the computer because it was contaminated. And I can tell you that that whole process, which would normally have taken a long time, was completed in 94 hours. We worked around the clock. Um, I didn't know how to do that. He came to me like I knew exactly what to do. I didn't know. That's
Mhm.
why I went to the VP that I was working with, and I knew that he knew the right people, and we got him into a room. And what I did was I used cadence project methodology, and if anybody's interested in that, we can talk about later. But I had 7 people sitting at a desk, and I gave them each a little pad of sticky notes and said, "I'm going to leave here. I want you to write down one thought on each piece of paper, as many as you can think of that have to happen to make this work." And I came back in, they were still writing furiously. I gave them a couple extra minutes, said, "Okay, fine." Now I said, "One of you go up there on the board and say start, and everybody go up on the board, and everybody else go up, put all these things wherever you think they need to be."
In order, right?
Oh,
Or where you think they fall in order, right?
and draw lines between them, and they did. And then I had somebody, I think it was Paula, actually, input it into a computer into Microsoft Project. Poof, project plan.
That was Dennis, but yeah.
All right, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and then, I mean, and it just went from there. But I mean, I couldn't have done that.
Yeah,
Shit,
you
I
had a
didn't know all the things.
process.
I didn't know all those things,
Yeah.
but he did.
Mhm.
And what's funny, I mean, I don't know how many years ago. That was year 1999. I don't know, 2000 maybe.
2000, back in
They
2000.
still have a copy of that project plan under glass hung on the wall.
Mhm.
They couldn't believe it. I told them it would be 96 hours to completion, and 2 hours before it was supposed to be done, the president of the company came in and said, we're in production. I said, no, we're not, Al. He said, yes, we are. I said, no, we are not. Not for 2 more hours. He said, yes, we are. And I said, really? How did that happen? So I walked in and talked to the lead person on the computer, and I said, yeah, we're up and running. I said, wow, everything working? He said, yes.
They just hadn't updated the plan, but
I mean, you know,
you didn't know how to do it, but you had a process to get from here to there.
hell yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
Right. And, that's always kind of and I love that from the book too. They do a really nice job of talking about how to break things down into smaller steps and putting it together and using, we'd used that process, that cadence project methodology for, like, it used to be an emergency every year. At the end of the year, they would do their taxes and it would be an emergency. And it's just like, you know what? If this happens more than once, this happens the same time every year. Why is everybody so surprised that this is such an emergency to get the taxes done? But we put together a repeatable process, and then all we had to do was change the dates, change the names, roll that process out every year, get it done.
And the second year they did it,
Hmm.
they said, we don't know how to do this. I said, yeah, you do.
Yep. You have it all documented.
And they followed it and it worked, and it just blew them away.
Right. No, I love it when a plan comes together, to quote a movie. Who was that? That was Hannibal Smith and the A-Team. I love it when a plan comes together. But I do still struggle, against process. And it's the whole concept, and they outline that pretty well, against the freedom versus discipline, you know, uh, paradox, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm Stella.
So anyway,
Yeah.
Leah, I said, I can feel your pain because I didn't know what I was doing when they threw that at me. And I had to have help, and I got it, and it made it look like I knew what I was doing.
Right. Exactly. Another thing that I love about this book, and this is a process that we're going through right now, is going from, and we've been doing this for a couple of years with Stella and Ali and everybody else on the team. When you go from doing everything yourself to involving other people in what's happening, um, there is and this is why most businesses fail. They give a lot of really good examples in the book of businesses that couldn't scale because they didn't have the processes, and only one person can do this. Whenever you run into something like that, you have a bottleneck and you have a problem, because that person could be sick, that person could be on vacation, that person's internet could go out, any number of things could happen. And that's why we've been working so hard to make team processes integrated, because we owe that to our clients um, to have that stability, and not boil anything down to one particular person. And so that's the hard thing, and also the great thing about this, I think, is that it's so fulfilling when it works, but it is so unfulfilling when it goes wrong, and you end up with people kind of straitjacketed by processes that either don't work or outdated or something like that. So we do need to be flexible, and we change our processes every single time. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about how we're balancing chaos versus chaos versus
We should always be ready for the, you can say, surprises. There is a no
yeah,
can, you can say, ideal word in the, you can say, any organization. They are 100% perfect and doing everything that is written or you can say developed. As I mentioned, that it's very hard to, you can say, implement a process.
yeah,
It's easy to develop, but it's hard to, you can say, implement it. But considering that, we need to be flexible, be adaptive, that changes happen, and some of the things we never done in past, but now we are in the phase that we have to adopt some new ideas, some new, you can say, working ethics as well, that these things should be according to some process, not only that it's only my wish that I want to do this in my way. It's not about me, it's all about the organization and the process.
yeah.
So if our organization has to be grown, process should be, you can say, move forward from one direction A to Z.
Hmm. Exactly. And whenever you're working with more than one person, it is like you say, ideas are a dime a dozen, and everybody has a million great ideas every day, but actually implementing that idea, especially when you have many people and many different moving parts, that is where you run into issues. And that's why it's so, what is the saying? If you want to move fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And, so I've been going fast for a very long time, and now moving together is sometimes very frustrating because, we have to do things together. We have to do reviews. We have to do fact checking. We have to do all of these things in order to get the quality that we need and in order to make sure that everybody is on board and is learning and is able to do this task next time.
Yes,
So,
100% agreed with you.
right. I've been working with one of our clients, Tim Bennell, with another one of his companies, where we're talking about implementing processes and how to get through that difficult situation. And one of the suggestions that a book that he recommended to me, and there's a lot of other books that are also really good on this topic, but um, if you ever do something more than once, document it. So if you find yourself doing something that you've done before, that is a process. It is no longer a single thing, so if you see yourself doing something more than once, document it so that you can hand it off to someone else. And, I think that's excellent advice and a great place to start. This doesn't have to be as daunting as it appears. It's just a matter of simply delegating small steps and then turning those into larger processes, delegating more, delegating more, delegating more until they have the whole process and you can walk away from it. And John and I can go to Europe, and Ali and Stella have got the whole company humming along like nobody's business without us giving it a second thought. But, that's a really cool thing.
Yes, I totally agree, and that gives us everyone fair value and fair, you can say, equal opportunity to everyone. That they know all the things, not only and Srila is running the company. Behind the scene, there are more people's working and doing the stuff as well, and they know how many process we have involved in this particular task or project. So
Mhm.
I'm really glad that we have a couple of the things that going forward, and I learned a lot from these experiences, and I would see that in future we have more good process in hand, and you can say deliver the more quality service to our clients.
Mhm.
And I did not read this book, but I joined because of this book. That the heading of the book is really attractive, the process, which I really think of in my mind every day. That what should be a process for me look like, and
Mhm.
how should be I be implementing those processes in my own company or somewhere if I'm working or joining someone else.
Yeah, exactly. So, I guess my first exposure to the idea was the E-Myth, and that was Michael Gerber's book, probably in the 80s, a million years ago, when I was still in high school and we were, running some different projects and things together, science fair projects and other things. And they're talking about systems and processes and things like that. And then Tim Ferriss's 4 Hour Work Week, I think, is probably the best. Well, I don't know if it was the best, but it was certainly an eye-opening, shocking book on this subject, where he talks about, people can outsource their job, basically, and live somewhere else. And my employer did not know, I can say this now because I don't work for that employer anymore, that when John got deployed to Fort Hood, I went with him. I wasn't even at home. I was at Fort Hood in Texas. I wasn't at my home in Salt Lake City for months. And, my employer, I was, flying back and forth to San Francisco once a month, just like I always did, for team meetings and everything else. I just happened to not tell them that I was not at home. And this was in what was that, the 90s, John?
Yeah,
Or early 2000s?
yeah, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I don't even remember the exact dates, but it was it was unheard of at the time. Now it's no big deal. People work from anywhere. And, of course, I have no idea where Stella is at any given time. She could be in Paris. She could be in Mexico. She could be anywhere. And it's
But
totally
we don't care as long as she can do what she does.
Mhm. Right. But I love the 4 Hour Work Week for that reason. That was a really, really good book on, processes as a means to more freedom. And that was the first time I ever encountered that idea. This is not something to be resisted. This is something to be used. It's not something that the company uses to control its people. It's something that I can use as an employee or a team member to make my life easier. And, so it's kind of a different view of the same topic.
It
And
hit a lot of,
Mhm.
so when COVID hit, a lot of companies had to rethink their processes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we can't have everybody come into the office. How do we keep our business going?
Right.
And so they had to think quickly on their feet. What is this going to look like? How can we still maintain our business, but everybody can't come to the office all at the same time?
Mhm.
And then post COVID, how do we go back?
Yeah.
And of course, employees are like, oh, I don't want to go back to the office. I like working remotely and whatnot. And so they're now having to rethink processes as to, can we do this hybrid? Can we do this totally remote?
Mhm.
What is the justification for requiring people to come into the office, however frequently that might be?
Yeah. And that's when the dam burst, and a lot of really big corporations that were really resistant to this started putting the processes more in the hands of individual people and saying, how are you going to make this work? Because we can't control everything. If we can't clap our eyes on you every morning and make sure that you're making busy noises in a cubicle, how do we know if you're doing any work? And processes are the answer to all of those questions. All right. So should we wrap up with maybe last impressions? Where does this fit on the scale of 1 to 10? Highly recommended is number 1 versus don't bother number 10.
Kind of backwards, but okay.
So yeah, well, no, I mean, I guess is that backwards from the way we usually
Yeah,
do it?
that's backwards. Why'd you do it that way?
Okay. Let's do it the right way then. Let's use our processes appropriately. Okay. Consistent processes. 10 is highly recommended. 1 is don't bother.
I would say 8.5.
8.5. Gotcha. Excellent, Stella. And
I
I'll
would
leave
go for 9.5.
9.5. Okay. There you go. John?
Probably an 8 and 8.5 because I don't think they went into enough detail about processes, but
Yeah. I think there were other books that are better first introductions to the subject. Like, I would say Tim Ferriss' book is absolutely enlightening. It's probably a little dated now, but that was the biggest impact on my thinking in terms of books on this topic. Checklist Manifesto, I think, is also better. So that's the only reason I'm giving it maybe an 8. And I would say, Checklist Manifesto or 4 Hour Work Week would probably be a good first introduction to the subject if you have not considered it. But I love this book, and I am going to go read Traction because it's in the same series, and I think it's worth reading. And they also have a book called How to Be a Great Boss by Gino Wickman and Renee Bohr in the same series. So I'm going to read that one. Hopefully, I can improve and not drive people as crazy as I have been. So that's my next read before our next one, which of course is Renegade Marketing, which we'll be reading in September.
You're adding to your book list.
I'm adding to my book list. I know I read a lot more actually than we read in the book club. I'm kind of an addict that way. So this is what
Me
I
too.
do instead of Netflix or instead of watch TV or sleep.
Me too. I probably read 4 to 5 books a week.
Oh, I know you do. Yeah, you read more than I do actually. I read that much I read well, that's not true. I read about one fiction book a week, and then I read like 2 business books a month. So I'm way behind you, but I do read a lot. So.
Me and my 10,000 book library.
I know. Yeah, John's got a huge library as well, and we had our granddaughter here over the weekend last weekend, and she was pulling books down and making blocks out of them, stacking them and stuff like that. So she loves books. She's 6 months old. She's not reading them yet. She's more interested in what she can build with them, but that's okay.
But she
They
is
all
being
fit right here.
Nice.
But she is being read too,
Yeah, that's true. And
which is the way you start.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Any famous last words, or should we wrap that one up?
I think so. We are good to go. Processes are hard to implement. We are keep moving in the right direction and do our best for the rest of the company and for our clients. And I think so that we learned a couple of things by doing different, you can say, working with the different, you can say, clients and different mindsets, how they are working there, just like we have an idea for many tasks from. I have seen other clients are doing that. I thought that we should also implement this kind of, you can say, activities in our team members. So we are in the right direction, and we are open to every new process and serve our clients in the best way.
Agreed. Great. Well, on that note, I think we will cut there, and then we've got group office hours starting in about half an hour. So yeah, thanks you guys. I really appreciate you jumping in. This was all ABCI team, which is kind of neat. Maybe we should move this earlier in the morning so that we can get more of our team members to join us.